I've lived in the Maplewood Hills subdivision for a little over 6 years now. It's a quiet, picture-perfect neighborhood on the surface, kids riding scooters, flower beds blooming like postcards, and retired folks waving from wraparound porches. My house sits at the corner of Juniper and Stonegate, right across from the park where my daughter, Lily, and her service dog, Moose, spend most afternoons. I'm a single father and a retired Air Force colonel. Most people around here know me as the guy who grills on Sundays and always shovels snow off the neighbors' sidewalks without being asked. I keep to myself, mostly until someone gives me a reason not to. And that reason came in the form of Brenda Milford, the self-appointed president of our HOA. She wasn't elected. Technically, our community disbanded the formal HOA structure 2 years ago after a vote. But Brenda didn't seem to get the memo, or maybe she just didn't care. She wore her leadership like a crown and ran around town handing out fake citations, wielding her homemade bylaws like they were law. Her whole life seemed dedicated to appearances. Blonde helmet hair, white gloves for gardening, a pearl necklace at all times, even while walking her poodle. And she absolutely loathed Moose. Moose is a golden retriever with the temperament of a monk. Lily has autism and mild cerebral palsy. And that dog has been her constant companion since she was 4. He helps her stay calm during meltdowns, picks up dropped items, and even presses elevator buttons when we're out. But to Brenda, Moose was unsanitary, a threat, and an excuse for special treatment. She once screamed that my daughter was a charity case dragging down property values. I reported that to the city, but there was nothing official to act on. And so, like all cowardly bullies, she got bolder. At first, it was the flyers' passive-aggressive printouts stuffed into everyone's mailbox with phrases like certain residents abusing ADA loopholes and therapy animals are not above the law. Then came the fake notices, fines for excessive barking that never happened, threats to report me to code enforcement for allowing my daughter to run a daycare just because we had a sandbox and a play tent in the backyard. When I confronted her directly, calmly, and with documentation, she rolled her eyes and accused me of weaponizing Lily's diagnosis. She even insinuated Moose wasn't a legitimate service animal. It all came to a head one October morning. Lily was on the front lawn, dressed in her favorite yellow overalls, giggling and practicing her reading flashcards with Moose curled beside her. I had just poured myself a second cup of coffee when I saw Brenda emerge from her house across the street. She looked different this time, wild-eyed, face twisted, and worst of all, gripping a metal pole in her hand. My stomach dropped. I bolted outside, just as she stomped across the grass, ranting about taking back our streets and how disabled brats don't get special privileges in my neighborhood. I shouted her name, told her to stop, to think, but her hatred was louder than my voice. She raised the pole toward Moose. He stood, calm, protective, and Brenda snarled, "Let's see how useful this mutt really is." She swung. Moose dodged, but the pole grazed his back. Lily screamed. The sound she made, pure panic, ignited something in me I hadn't felt since Kandahar. I launched forward, tackled Brenda to the ground, and ripped the pole from her grip. She writhed and spat, yelling, "You're assaulting me." "You'll regret this," neighbors poured out onto the street, phones in hand, Stunned. Mrs. Jensen from next door was already on the phone with the police. I stood over Brenda, chest heaving, every muscle tensed with rage and restraint. I said nothing as the sirens arrived. But when the officers asked for IDs, I handed over not just my driver's license, but my Pentagon clearance card. I made it clear what had just happened, a hate-fueled assault on a disabled child and her federally registered service animal. On private property, in broad daylight, with half the neighborhood watching. Brenda still didn't get it. She screamed about conspiracies, claimed I forged my credentials, even tried to say Moose attacked her. But the footage said otherwise. 3 separate angles, full audio, a crystal clear shot of her lifting the weapon. They arrested her on the spot. And as they read her, the charges: felony assault with a deadly weapon, hate crime enhancement, cruelty to a service animal, her expression changed from fury to disbelief, then to pure fear. No HOA title, no manicure, no false sense of superiority could save her from that. I stood in the driveway, holding Lily close, Moose's fur beneath her trembling fingers, and watched them take Brenda away. Not as a father, not even as a colonel, but as a man who finally saw justice sharpen its teeth. The media caught wind within hours. HOA leader attacks, disabled child and service dog ran on every major outlet by that evening. Local officials scrambled to distance themselves. Lawyers representing victims of past HOA harassment came forward. Brenda's entire administration unraveled. Turns out, she'd been running a private slush fund using HOA dues for years, funding everything from Botox to backyard renovations. She went down hard, and I made sure every resident who'd ever been bullied by her got a seat at the trial. Lily testified bravely, clearly, with Moose at her side, tail wagging. Her words: she hit Moose because she didn't like me, but Moose helps me talk. And my daddy says, we don't let mean people win. She broke every heart in that courtroom. Brenda was sentenced to 18 years with no parole for 10. The judge called her a danger to community values and human decency. With the settlement we won in civil court, we started a nonprofit, Hearts and Paws, dedicated to helping families with disabled children get access to therapy dogs and legal resources. The city council passed new laws protecting service animals from HOA interference. The entire neighborhood turned a new leaf. Some of those who once ignored Brenda's behavior came forward to volunteer with us. I forgave them. Not because they deserved it, but because my daughter deserved to live in a place where forgiveness wasn't rare. This morning, Lily and Moose sat on that same front lawn, reading a new book. Flowers now bloom along the path where Brenda once raged, planted by the same neighbors who once kept their distance. Moose still limps a little on cold mornings, but he's still the best damn dog on earth. And Lily, she's thriving. Her speech is improving. Her confidence soars. And every time she giggles, it reminds me of why we fight. Not with fists, not with rage, but with truth, resolve, and love so unshakable it outlasts the worst in people. So when people ask me if I regret tackling that woman, if I regret showing the full weight of who I am, I tell them no. I regret waiting that long to act, because the moment we stand up, even to the loudest bullies, is the moment we remind them who really owns the power in this country. And it's not a title on a fake HOA newsletter. It's a little girl with a book, a dog at her side, and a father who won't let her be silenced.